What was the worst job interview you've had? I drove an hour away to an interview at 8 a.m. I waited outside the interviewer's office until 8:30 a.m. with no one to tell me where to go or where she was. Finally, another employee walks by and I ask if they know where this woman is to interview me. They had no idea where she was, why she was late, and told me if she wasn't there yet, I should leave because she probably forgot, okay? I decide 45 minutes is the cutoff, especially standing in a government building looking like a creep waiting. 8:45 on the dot she rushes in, flustered, wet hair, and in casual yoga pants. With all the resurgence of patience I could muster, I greeted her and was met with a passive-aggressive scolding of how the interview was at 9, not 8. I triple-checked the email asking me to interview and it was 8. We had conducted a phone interview and she followed up with an email request to an in-person interview at 8. I was 100% positive on this. I hate being late. Even with this, and I did say, I'm certain you said 8 a.m., ma'am, she wasn't having it. Conversely, she also went on about why she was late, surmounting in, she went to the gym and forgot her underwear to change into and had to stop at a store and buy new ones after working out, before coming to work. She told me this in the first 5 minutes. Why? I didn't ask her. Regardless, she looks at my resume, apparently for the first time, because she proceeds to tell me how it is unimpressive and my graduate studies should have yielded numerous publications after 1.5 years. In my field, most don't publish until after 3 to 4 years. Even still, she kept saying how I had moved up the interview time, showed me the workspaces and told me I probably wouldn't be interested in what they do there. I politely told her I had driven, at her request, to be there and interview for employment. I was very interested. She waved me off. As we left, I just tried to hold it together. I was very poor and very desperate for a job, thanked her, and she told me how great it is to work for the government, how good the benefits, the pension, the time off are. On and on. She said, if you can find an opening working for the government, you should try to check it out and get hired on. Hold up. I just looked her in the face and said, yes, ma'am, that was my hope with today's interview. Thank you. And left. And sat in my car and bawled the whole drive home like the desperate loser I was. That was a low one, to be sure. Can't imagine somebody who has obtained a graduate's degree feeling like a loser. You have a random Redditor who doesn't want to hear you talk about yourself like that. This story seems to imply you're incredibly smart with a good and honest heart. Be proud. My first interview ever was at DQ and I accidentally knocked a 90-year-old woman over. So after accidentally slaying your predecessor, how's life been as the new Dairy Queen? 5 interview rounds, with the last interview round being with the CEO, all for an entry-level customer service job. During the last interview, the CEO said you weren't allowed to get sick, and you weren't allowed to leave at the end of the day until all of the work had been done. So even though the job was 8 to 4, the CEO said customer service reps often stayed until 6 p.m. or later. She also asked if I would be comfortable secretly reporting to her about what the customer service team is up to. I declined the job offer and the company harassed me with emails asking why and what they did wrong. Really glad I didn't take the job. 5 interviews for entry level? That's insane. Also, I bet the hours between 4 and 6 were unpaid. When I was a teenager, I had 3 interviews for Wendy's. It wasn't even for working there. It was for a freelance sound system installation. It's bizarre, they know they did something wrong but are so out of touch they can't see their own mistakes in front of them. Edit. I guess I got my first ever award overnight. Thank you. Job was for a vibration analysis engineer. I knew how to do the job well. I knew the pay should be around $95K, and they stated $55K in the interview. When I tried to discuss my point, they said, "Don't worry, there's plenty of overtime." They also mentioned since they weren't involved with many balancings at the moment, I would assist the cleaning crew with a lot of the cleanings. I've never been so uninterested in a job in my life. Vibrations analysis. Cleaning crew. That's a complicated way to say sex toy tester. An agency sent me for an interview and said the starting salary is £33,000. The interview went fairly well until the interviewer said, "So what sort of salary are you looking for?" So using the info I had from the agency, I said, "Well, I think £33,000 is a fair starting point." The interviewer practically threw me out. He started to shout about wasting his time because I expected to be paid a huge salary, and who did I think I was? He was paying £20,000. Salary negotiation is so weird. I once had an interview for an internship. I told them $12/hour was fine with me. They then said, "Well, we pay $10.50 as corporate policy dictates, and it's non-negotiable." And I'm like, why did you ask what I wanted to be paid then? Should have just said we pay $10.50/hour, is that alright? Maybe if you had suggested a lower rate than 10.50, they would have gone with that and saved some money. And this is why I always bring a copy of the posting with me. I don't think it would have helped, and you probably dodged a bullet anyway, but one day it'll be useful. Yeah, I have one that sticks out. I applied to a government branch as a network admin. The newspaper ad asked for a bachelor's degree. They called me into the interview. When I got there, the first thing the interviewer said was, "We wanted someone with a master's degree. Why did you apply?" Now, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they had other interviews that day and got them mixed up. Crap happens. I just informed the interviewer that the ad I applied for requested a bachelor's degree, and confirmed the position I was interviewing for. No, we definitely wanted someone with a master's degree. So, again, why did you apply? If you wanted someone with a master's degree, why did you bother calling me in for an interview? You're very rude and unprofessional. Yeah, you effed up at every junction thus far, but I'm the one who's rude and unprofessional. I always have the job posting/description printed, with notes on it. Had similar comments a couple times, and it's nice to have it right there. Once had an interviewer say, "I don't know where you got this." Ah. You posted it. I copy/pasted. I once applied for a position and got asked to an interview, even got the job. The resume they received was completely blank due to some fupe on the job site I used at the time. It just has my name, number at the top. Was pretty weird when they asked me basic questions. When he said, "I'll give you extra hours if you bring me smokes every day," then put his hand on my leg and said his wife gives him passes to have fun. I also got a speeding ticket on the way to the interview. Was not my month. Would not have been surprised if you got a speeding ticket on the way home. Just not possible to get away from that crap fast enough. An interviewer told me that he worried I would be sexually harassed if I joined his team. Red flag. At least he was honest and you dodged a bullet. Company was downsizing. All employees in a specific yet exclusive division were fired in order to reapply for their position plus 2 other jobs in the company. You'd either get one of those jobs or be terminated. The subsequent interviews were conducted with a manager and an HR person. First interview in executive suite, manager asks, "Why aren't you applying for this key supervisory slot?" I had listed it second on my list. I would prefer to stay in my expertise, in which I won a national award. HR, I didn't know awards like that existed. Second interview, current boss likes me for my existing job, for which I was heavily recruited from another company. HR, wow, so you're the guy who does this job? I had no idea a real person did it. Third interview, HR person says he's never heard of my division or that employees actually worked at night. I had listed this job, in which I merely served as a minor manager, as third on my preferences. Really didn't want it but had to list 3. The results, I was retained but transferred to the third dead-end day job. My old award-winning job was given to an aging staffer who never worked in that position or had a clue. The supervisor job went to a brilliant colleague who wanted and deserved it. I quit very soon thereafter and joined a bigger company with better benefits. Skill pays off. After all that, my old company, seeing the error of its ways in lost production and general lack of ability, offered me a bonus to return. Nope. And I'm returning the corporate knife you stuck in my back. I interviewed for a project management position. The interviewer describes the job. Basically, it was pure research and data entry of potential clients, then cold calling them and documenting the results. The job ad mentioned exactly none of this but was an average project management job ad, else I wouldn't have applied in the first place. I asked what exactly was the project management part, and got told that could, not would, be down the road, maybe 2 to 5 years in, but really only maybe. I thanked them for the interview opportunity, we wrapped things up and I politely left. The fact that you got a call after a month makes me think she hired someone else who quit really quickly, because she's clearly terrible, and you were choice number 2. I was thinking she was interviewing people for the entire month, every day, showing her tits to and getting free labor from 30 people before settling on original poster is the best option, though still far from the idealized fantasy submissive Mary Poppins she was hoping for. Showed up looking good in my suit with a ton of knowledge on Capital Partners. It turned out I had researched the wrong company named Capital Partners. Could have been worse, dude. At least you didn't get the wrong 4 seasons. Oh, what a night. I did major research on a company and expected questions in the interview. The only one they asked was, "What is our slogan?" Of course, I hadn't memorized that. As I left I saw it was on the effing giant sign outside. Edit. Thanks to all of the helpful people who are suggesting I should have researched the company. However, I will not be taking advice from you as you managed to miss the words major and research in this comment itself, and therefore you are lacking in attention to detail. To be clear, I had recently read a book about the history of the company as I had a great interest, and I added to my body of knowledge with internet searches and specific web pages. I knew a great deal about the company, but I didn't memorize a slogan. To the people who suggested I should have turned the question around and offered my knowledge, yes, this is good advice, and I hope you will always be so glib. In this instance, I did attempt that, but the interview was ended by the supervisor who made 50p an hour more than my starting wage. There was a checklist involved, and an X was a knockout factor. But this part isn't funny, is it? I don't get why companies ask you things like that. As if it would be relevant to whatever you do each day. I went in to apply for an administrative assistant position and the guy kept asking me questions about liking kids and are my passports up to date, etc. I was so confused. Turns out what he really wanted was a nanny for his 2 young kids to travel with him and his wife back to India. I was so pissed he wasted my time. I noped right the F out of there. If that's what he wanted, that's what he should have put in the job description. I'm sure he would have gotten plenty of qualified individuals to apply. Right? A lot of people take nanny jobs specifically for the purpose of living abroad or traveling. I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find a qualified person who would actually want that job. He probably couldn't hire a nanny and get his company to pay for it, but he could a PA. Had a phone interview and the woman kept asking more and more intrusive questions, kept hinting I'm a total piece of crap who's totally unfit for the job. It was the easiest job description ever, and jumping to conclusions about my life that were completely untrue. For example, I found out that being a freelancer who gets a lot of decently paid work each month is apparently living off my parents. She kept going on and on like that for quite a while before I told her to piss off and hung up. Didn't really need that job too badly, but it was in a different country, so the travel aspect was the main reason. Years later I found out it was a stress interview, which apparently is a thing. F those people. Years later I found out it was a stress interview, which apparently is a thing. F those people. The only thing stress interviews and similar are good for is giving the person being interviewed a chance to recognize a toxic hellhole and run. Seriously, interviews are a two-way street. Pay attention to the red flags you see when you're interviewed. Companies that do that are not worth working for. Edit. Such a simple comment, but never had that many upvotes. Thanks everyone. It sounds like reneging, but in a professional context. Anyone who falls over themselves to put up with crap treatment is far more likely to accept worse working conditions for longer. I think recruiters seem to forget that an interview goes for both sides. I'm not only being interviewed for that position, you're also interviewed as an employer. If you suck, I'll go elsewhere. As the interviewer, candidate responded to a question I asked with, "Is that really how you want to spend our time together, by asking me that question?" When I wrote up my notes I included that bit. It obviously came up in the debrief and a huge red flag. Other interviewers also had similar, though not as serious, feedback on the candidate. He was not hired. As the interviewer immediately launched into, with a rough accusatory tone, "You're a job hopper. Why are you a job hopper?" When I was being recruited for a role a few years ago, I'd been working, successfully, as an independent consultant for 7 or 8 years, which she equated with job hopping. I ended that interview pretty quickly with "I don't think this is going to be a good fit," and gave the recruiter some pointed feedback. He seemed to acknowledge that she was difficult. Is that really how you want to spend our time together, by asking me that question? What was the question? I got to know who was being an ass here. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.